I now invite anyone who would like to come forward for Together time.
Good morning. My name is Katie, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministry here at UUC Phoenix. I have two things to tell you before I start. One is that we are at that point where, as desert monsters, we know that something is going to happen in the next few weeks that's going to make us not want to go outside, and it's going to be hard and going to make us grouchy and all of those things. And it hasn't happened yet. And it's still nice out. It's gonna heat up. And the thing that's happening that I've been watching last week and this week in classrooms and in meetings is that we're getting a little agitated because it's still nice out. And only people in the desert would get to mid-April and be like, oh no, it's still nice out, something is wrong. But I just want to remind us that we have extra wiggles, we have extra sounds, we have extra frustrations with each other, and that the weather does affect us, and to give ourselves a little more grace and a little more room, okay? It's going to be scary until it's scary hot. The other thing is that camp registration is open. Yay! Kids Camp is an over 30-year tradition here at UUCP. Please, if you're at all interested, come talk to us or come talk to our Kid Council members. Camp is determined by the kids. They run the camp. We have a few. Bela is a Kids Council representative. There's some who are upstairs right now who you can chat with, or just talk to anyone and be like, what do you know about camp? And then if you're helping out with coming of age, or if you are in coming of age, please meet in office 2 at noon. I'll ring the bell, go grab something to eat at coffee hour, and then I'll gather everyone at noon, okay? Okay, thank you for letting me do those things that I should have put in announcements, but I forgot because it's still nice outside. Okay. Anytime people move from one place to another, like you were back there and you came up here, and you flew fast like a flock of birds, you are migrating. Migration, and we're going to talk about words today. So, about migration, it was about birds, wasn't it? So let's say together, migration. Migration. Okay, we're going to work on our vocabulary today. So that was migration. Birds migrate, fish migrate, elk migrate, people migrate.
Whales migrate.
Whales migrate. You're moving from one place to another. Okay? Anytime people move, that's migration. It happens all over the world. It's normal. What's not natural and normal is borders. 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 Borders are the rules that humans apply to the earth about how humans use the earth. Okay? Let's see. Sebastian, this should make it all the way back to you and then to Natasha. We're going to give it a try. Let's see. Oh. Many years of doing pirouettes in the outfield led to that throw. I'm going to go over your head, and can you pass that to Miss Natasha? Beautiful. Perfect. So, borders. This is our line. This is a border. Borders get established for all sorts of different reasons. Sometimes they're really good and helpful. I grew up near a Superfund site. There are some borders that are great, that keep you safe. And there are some borders that are about politics or about culture, all sorts of things. Those are borders, okay? Now, I'm going to scoot you off my line. There you go. People often get tangled in borders. It's understandable. So, within a country, there can be a conflict. And a conflict can happen for mostly two reasons. One is over resources, and the other is over identity. So when resources are, there's not enough of something for people. And identity is about how people see themselves. And oftentimes, I would tell you that conflicts over resources are actually also conflicts over identity. We have a huge mass of food here, and you all believe that you deserve it first, and you believe that you deserve it first because you sit on this aisle versus you sit on this aisle, right? And who should have that becomes an identity issue. So identity is one of the core reasons for conflict. So, you with me? We're in a country, and there is a big, huge conflict. The conflict is over here, inside the country, and it becomes so bad that Miss Danielle can't be here anymore. It's become very hostile, and she decides to get up, and I'm gonna have you move to the seat behind you, so that she can be safer and she can survive, okay? And that's hard. She might decide to do that on her own, or the government might say, you have to move. Either way, she's within her own country, and she's had to move from one place to another. Now we call her an IDP, internally displaced person. Internal, like your organs, inside you, and displaced. She had to move to another spot. So she's an internally displaced person. Say that with me. Internally displaced person. So that label becomes important. It's different than if someone just moves on their own. It's an official government label where their own country and other international groups say you are officially an IDP. And being an IDP and getting that label means you have the right to aid. Aid is any time we give money or services or goods to someone in need. Okay? Aid. Aid. Good job. You've got internally displaced person, border, migration. You all are doing great. Okay. So you are welcome to come back to your seat because the conflict is over and if you're more comfortable there. So I want you to note something is that even though her seat behind her was the same seat, just as comfortable, it wasn't her seat and it wasn't home. And no matter how wonderful and terrific we could have made that new seat, it still wouldn't have been her seat. Keep that in mind, okay? Okay, so I think I need two of you to come be country members over here. Gabo and Gianna and Bela, actually all four of you. Can you come over here? Gabby, Gianna, you don't have to if you don't want to, it's okay. Addie, so take these 4 seats. These are citizens. They have specific rights allocated to them, and they live in this place. I'm not going to have you recite citizen because citizen means a whole lot of different things in a whole lot of different contexts. Weird crud, yes. Citizenship comes with weird crud. I will agree with that. Okay, so there was a conflict over there. The conflict spread to over here. And now the conflict has gotten bigger and bigger. So big that these 3 people cannot exist in this country anymore. And it's not, sit right there. It's not cannot exist comfortably. It's not cannot exist safely. It's not cannot exist happily. It's cannot exist in that country anymore. So they have to leave. So what happens is other countries, sometimes nearby and sometimes far away, would say, we see the conflict there, and we see that you have to go somewhere safe. And we want to provide you with an official title because that will provide you with aid, right? So this country right here on the border, Amory is the country right here on the border, says you are welcome to come here, and we will make a safe place for you. So the 3 of you move. What's the word for move? Migrate. They migrate to here, right here, and they stay here. Amory suddenly has an influx of people into her country. She couldn't build houses that quickly. She didn't farm all the goods to feed them. They put up tents, usually made of tarpaulin, and fed them, usually out of aid from other countries, and it's a camp. This is a camp for these people who have moved. So when someone leaves their home country and has to go somewhere else, and they are invited into a new place and told, before you leave your country, you can come here. There is a space for you here. They are refugees. Refugees. Refugees are someone that has been invited into a new country before leaving their home country. There's some fishy stuff around borderland stuff. But in general, that is how refugee status works. So this is a refugee camp. This is an emergency situation where we've created space for them. It's not a great place to live. It is literally a camp. Foods are rationed. Healthcare is hard. And all of your aid and everything in your daily life is dependent on other countries giving it to you. And so if the country where you were in conflict decides to cut you off from everyone else and decides you're not allowed to get food, say, what do you not get? Food, right? And you're dependent on other people. And this whole time, where is home? Back there. And throughout our whole lives, we can move from place to place and find tons of homes where our hearts can live. But there is always a special place when your heart can't go back to the place it loves, right? Your first home. So they're in a refugee camp. Now, this is not sustainable. This is not healthy and good. They need to live somewhere. They cannot exist here as much as they want to. So then we have other countries, usually further away, who are going to invite these refugees to resettle. Refugee resettlement is when countries offer to create permanent living places for refugees. Refugee resettlement. Refugee resettlement. Okay, so now our 3 refugees, come on over here. Okay, and we're gonna resettle you. We're actually gonna resettle you behind the Lifshitz and next to Jeff, Mr. Jeff. Go ahead. So this is not a place they picked. They do not know the people around them. They know some of them, but they might be familiar with them, but they don't know how this all works. And there wasn't really room. People had to adjust. So these 3 have been resettled, okay? These refugees may achieve permanent status in this country. They might get to be citizens. In some countries, that's true. That some countries, that's not true. What is true is 2 important things that I want you to remember. Refugees long for their home country. And nothing that we do can ever replace that. It's the same as losing a loved one. Losing a place is hard. This is why we see such identity battles over land, right? And such conflict and crisis. So that heartache will always be there. As much as you can say, but the new country has popsicles and puppy dogs. Right? So that's number 1. And number 2 is once refugees come to a new country, we have a new word for them. Okay? That word is neighbor. Neighbor. Okay, because we're just past Earth Day, I have to add a caveat. I talked about conflict being a reason that people become IDPs and refugees. We need to talk about one more piece, if I may. Natural disaster and climate change. We talk about climate refugees and people joke that people have to leave Phoenix because there are climate refugees. That is true to an extent, but there are actual refugees and actual IDPs who are having to move because of natural disasters and climate shifts. And it makes a very big difference worldwide. And in the US, we are not talking about Katrina enough. Many, many years ago, there was a huge hurricane that displaced thousands of people. Entire cities had to get up and move west. And a lot of people moved here. But the US refused to label them as IDPs because the US will never have IDPs officially, which means they didn't get aid and help. And so it is one of the ways that we are not talking about refugees or climate crisis in the US. Okay? One more piece. Talked about refugees are in their home countries and they ask to go somewhere else. Right? What happens if someone's forced out of their country and then asks to stay in the country they're in? Does anyone know what that's called? So you have to flee across a border, you're pushed across the border, and you get there and you say, I'm here because over there is not safe. We call that asylee, and they apply for asylee status. So refugees and asylees go through 2 different processes, but when they get over here, we call them neighbors. Good job. I'm so proud of all of you. Thank you.